Good morning. It is 10 a.m. on Wednesday, October 15th, and I am calling to order this meeting of the Public Safety and Justice Committee. We'll begin with a roll call. Hi, Nancy.
Vice Chairperson Lee.
Good morning, President.
And Chairperson Ellenberg.
I'm here as well.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you. We're going to move into public comment. This is the portion of the agenda set aside for members of the public wishing to address this committee on matters not on today's agenda, but within the purview of the PSJ committee. We'll hear first from any speakers in chambers and then on Zoom. Do we have any public speakers?
We have no requests to speak in chambers and one in Zoom.
All right. Let's just make a last call before we close the queue. If we're holding at one.
We are holding at
All
one.
right. Let's close it at one.
Okay, our speaker on Zoom is Parent. Please accept the unmute. You have 3 minutes. We seem to be having some technical difficulties. Let's give them another second here.
Previously addressed you guys about the sexual abuse of my kids, and that I told DA Jeff Rosen personally about many of the details in December of 2017. And I thought for sure that he would do something to help my kids, that he'd provide a referral to the Child Advocacy Center so they could get a screening. But he just ignored me. He treated the protection of my children as if it was optional, it was voluntary. Maybe he thought if he did something, he'd be doing me a favor. And I mean, it's just completely unacceptable. My kids, I saw my son when my ex-wife was first letting somebody rape him. And I mean, he couldn't look at anybody in the face. He could only look at the wall, look at out the window. I mean, he suffered. And I mean, what did any of my kids ever do to DA Jeff Rosen for him to treat him, so recklessly, so irresponsibly, so cruelly? And I mean, what did I ever do to him for him to ignore me and allow people to assault me? I mean, to me, he's just another unethical lawyer, and he really shouldn't be in charge of law enforcement in this county, because I mean, we live in a place of chaos. It's no longer safe to raise a family, to have children in this county. I mean, he's showing this county right now the reckless disregard he has for public safety. And I think we should start telling people, it's time to leave, it's time to move. Only single people should be in this county, because I think he's going to get reelected. He's piled up all the endorsements, and he's going to continue to serve as a terrible example for the rest of the DA's office that we trust and we rely on. And he's going to continue to get rid of whistleblowers and people who don't agree with breaking the law, like James Sibley or Daniel Chung. And it's going to keep getting worse and worse. I posted a lot of these details online if you want to Google the search terms DA Jeff Rosen petition sex trafficking. All those together, the first top 5 results, you'll see what I'm talking about. Thank you so much for your time.
That was our final speaker.
Thank you. The county recognizes that the topic the last speaker addressed, childhood sexual abuse, can be emotionally challenging or even triggering for some listeners. California law prohibits the disclosure of information related to an investigation of suspected child abuse or neglect. As a result, we're not authorized by law to speak to the specifics of any particular case or the results of an investigation in that case, including when allegations are made as part of a public comment. California law requires child welfare departments to immediately cross-report physical and sexual abuse of children to law enforcement and the district attorney so that swift action can be taken when needed. The public can be assured that our county takes all allegations of child abuse and neglect seriously and takes appropriate action. That includes rapid and cross-agency responses to such allegations by the Department of Family and Children's Services, local law enforcement, the Child Advocacy Center, and the district attorney. Our next item on the agenda today is approval of the consent calendar. And President Lee, with your agreement, I'd like to add item 6, which is to receive a report from the Office of the District Attorney in Santa Clara Valley Healthcare related to intimate partner violence forensic exams and strangulation protocols. Thank you for the report. I want to congratulate the district attorney, the medical examiner, and the sheriff's staff for their work to promote the adoption of the domestic violence protocol by all law enforcement agencies in the county. This tremendous accomplishment will standardize care for all victims of strangulation in alignment with best practice. I simply want to move it onto the consent calendar because the data is all available for all of us to see there. Item 10. So first, is that all right to move that to consent?
Yes, it is. I do have some comments, an additional request for future on that item, Mike.
On that item?
Yeah, on that item specifically, yeah.
Okay, let me just finish my comments
Sure,
and I'll
yeah.
turn back. Thank
Go
you.
ahead. Yeah.
Item 10, which is on consent, I want to remain there. These are the reports on competitive grants, but I do want to provide direction to receive an off-agenda report on items 10A and 10C for more information on the impact of the difference in budgeted grant monies versus awarded grant funds on staffing and contracts. And that will be my motion.
Sure, I'll go ahead and second that as well. I just want to mention for item number 6, thank you so much for the report. For the future report, though, I would like to see if it's possible to add some historical data so that we can see the trending and also some insights as to how the examination numbers compared to the location of the crime data of the police reports, indication of any outliers where the number of exams are specifically high or low for a certain jurisdiction when comparing to the population size or crime location data, and then also some type of possible comparisons to other counties as well, so that way we are able to see anything that might be out of the ordinary. That's all I have.
All right, thank you.
you.
Do we have any public commenters on the consent calendar?
There are no requests to speak.
All right, motion by Ellenberg, second by Lee. Let's vote, please.
Vice Chairperson Lee
Aye.
and Chairperson Ellenberg.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. We'll move to our regular agenda. Item 4 is to receive a report from the Probation Department relating to use of force incidents in juvenile custodial settings for the period January 1, 2025 through July 31, 2025. And who will present on this item? A whole crew of you. Welcome.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Do you want to begin with introductions of who's up here?
Please. So Chairperson Ellenberg, Vice Chair Supervisor Lee, we have the Probation Department here presenting in front of you. Myself, I'm Deputy Chief Jill Ugaldi, who's over institutions. To my left, right, to my left is
That guy.
our Assistant Chief, Alex. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Good morning, Alex Villa, Assistant Chief for the Probation Department.
Good morning.
So everyone else will introduce themselves.
Perfect. Your mic's not on. No, can we get? Sorry, we'll get you technical help with the mic.
Kimberly
Oh,
Jodko,
there you go. All it takes is the clerk standing
Manager
up.
of the Research and Development.
Trina Gauthier, Probation Division Manager, Juvenile Hall.
Daniel Cortez, Probation Division Manager, Juvenile Hall.
Ashanti Hayes, Division Manager, James Ranch.
Thank you all for being here.
So this morning we have a presentation for the board. So Kim will go ahead and begin.
Good morning, everybody. So we're going to talk about our uses of force in the both of our facilities, James Ranch and Juvenile Hall. And we're going to have basically three sections. So we're going to start off with an overview of what use of force means in this context. Then we're going to describe the population profile, and that's basically we're going to describe the characteristics of the youth overall, the 6 months who have been involved in these use of force incidents. And then we're going to describe or basically count the number of incidents total over that 6-month period.
So before force is used by staff, de-escalation tactics are used in order to gain compliance. If compliance is not gained through de-escalation techniques, staff are authorized to use defensive tactics that have been approved by the department to whether intervene or to physically restrain. Now, we will use the least amount of force in order to gain compliance. This is done to not only protect themselves, but those who may be in the area, but also the youth that we may supervise. Use of force may be that is included, which would be physical restraints, which is anytime we have physical contact, whether that is through the hands or through the body to escort a youth from one location to the other, with or without exertion of strength or pressure controls. Also with mechanical restraints, anytime that handcuffs are used for non-compliant youth from one location to the other, or both physical and mechanical restraints. Also, for the purpose of this report, we did not include when mechanical restraints are used and when youth are compliant to transport from one location or another, whether that is within the facility or outside the facility.
Thank you, Ashanti. So we've also prepared a flow chart just to kind of provide a visual for everyone to view. We've broken down the flow chart by 3 different sections. The first section are the incident. And when the incident occurs, the staff are the ones who initiate an emergency call for assistance. This can be whether physical and or mechanical restraints are being applied. The staff, supervisors, and any other party of the emergency response team will respond to the scene. They will de-escalate and secure whatever incident may be taking place. All youth that are involved are escorted to designed areas, so whether that be for temporary separation or whether that be to interact with both our medical and behavioral health teams. In addition, when the probation managers are available, they too provide oversight on scene. The supervisor evaluates the use of force incident and notifies behavioral health to evaluate the youth involved, even when cases where no emergency care appears to be necessary. Youth are then evaluated by the medical team, and this occurs within 2 hours. They're also evaluated by the behavioral health team, and that happens within 4 hours. The on-duty supervisor then calls and notifies the legal parent or guardian of the youth's involvement to include any injuries that may have occurred or any need for medical transport. The unit staff will counsel the youth in the designated areas and integrate the youth back into the program or housing unit as deemed necessary. If the integration period exceeds 2 hours, we document that incident in an incident report, and an integration form is filled out and retained for our records. Our objects and goals are to reintegrate that youth as quickly as possible after an incident occurs. So as far as the reporting, that's kind of in the middle of this flow chart. All use of force incidents are reported immediately to a supervisor, probation manager, and the deputy chief. Incident reports are generated for all use of force incidents. And every responding staff prepares one of those reports based on their witness to the situation. A Child Protective Services referral may be initiated by any witness of the use of force incident. So that can be teachers, that can be behavioral health, that can even be community providers. Supervisor conducts an incident report review and submits to the manager and the Deputy Chief Probation Officer for final review and approval. So at any point during that review period, we believe that further investigation or any other conduct needs to be looked into further, that would happen at that point. And then finally in this flow chart, we talk about the investigation piece. The investigation piece is when criminal conduct or excessive use of force is suspected. At any time, allegations of excessive force are reported, an investigation shall be initiated, and that's per our policy and procedure manual. Investigations of use of force incidents are handled in accordance with personnel complaints policies. Medical and behavioral health staff are mandated to report when excessive use of force is suspected, and they will also file both a CPS report and contact the Sheriff's Office for further investigation and review. The managers and deputy chief are also notified of any suspected use of excessive force or criminal misconduct. From there, the managers, deputy chief probation officer, and assistant chief shall conduct a review of recorded video footage. At this point in the process, we would also bring in the Sheriff's Office to also perform an independent investigation and review of those tapes. From there, any internal affairs referral may be also submitted for any type of misconduct. And from there, it's going to flow into the internal affairs flow chart, which is kind of what Alex is going to be discussing.
Good morning. Just to briefly cover the internal affairs process. The internal affairs unit can receive a complaint from anywhere, really the public, a provider, a service provider, a youth, a parent, even our own staff. So whenever the internal affairs unit receives a complaint, there's two kind of tracks that happen. One is an evaluation whether or not there has been a policy violation that has occurred that may lead to discipline, or there's a procedural or coachable type of infraction that we can treat as what we call a section level investigation. So in that first blue box, what will happen, in the green box, we receive the complaint. In the subsequent dark blue box, we assign it to an investigator to be evaluated. If it does not appear there's a policy violation that could or may lead to discipline, it'll go downwards in that section level process, and then a report and an intervention will be delineated. If during that process it appears that there was a policy violation, we'll go back up to where we do conduct a formal investigation, and we'll go down that path of examining whether or not there was a policy violation that may or may not lead to discipline. So in the case that we have a referral, it's a clear, it appears to be a clear policy violation. We will conduct an investigation. At the conclusion of that investigation, we will draft and submit a report for review. That report then goes to what is called the Consensus Review Board, the CRB. And that is a review board of independent evaluators who review the report and the findings, and they either conclude or concur with the findings, or they don't concur. If the findings of the report are unfounded, not sustained, exonerated, or there's no finding, then the report itself or the investigation itself is closed. However, if there is a sustained finding of a policy violation, there's another step that's called the Disciplinary Review Board. This is a different set of folks that review the material, and they make a recommendation as to what they believe an appropriate discipline may be as a result of the policy violation. After that, there is an opportunity for the employee to participate in a SCELI or administrative hearing. At the conclusion of that hearing, there's a report that goes to personnel where the final disciplinary action is drafted and issued, and then the whole cycle is closed. So there's basically three tracks. One is the section level track, then there's the formal investigation. And if the if the formal investigation results in no finding or unsustained, the process is closed. If there is a sustained finding, the process continues until we come to that final disposition of the case. And that would be the conclusion of the entire internal affairs process.
We'll just be highlighting some of what takes place once a use of force incident occurs. A supervisor arrives to the scene to make an assessment of any injury and to identify those youth that are involved. Any youth that are involved in an incident, they will be assessed by our medical clinic. All injuries, regardless of if from the event or after, will be noted in that report. If at that time the medical clinic determines that there's a possibility of excessive use of force, they have the option to go ahead and notify the sheriffs. They will notify the sheriff's department as well as make a CPS report. Our behavior health will also be deployed within 4 hours. They usually do much less time. Medical's there within 2 hours. Typically, I want to say less than an hour, 30 minutes. As soon as the youth can comply, they'll be brought to the medical clinic, or the medical clinic will go to them to assess them. Staff create incident reports to document their actions, and those are all reviewed by management as well as the deputy chief.
So during the use of force procedures, some of the concerns that come up are youth being able to report use of force, right? And so we want to make sure that the youth have the opportunity to do that during any supervisor or staff that they trust. Also, if they feel like medical, when they get seen by medical, the nurses, behavioral health clinicians that see them, their parents, their deputy probation officers that come see them, or any community-based organization that comes in to work with them as well. So we want to always make available the youth the opportunity to report. Additionally, we have OYCR and the hotline that they can report, and YWCA hotline, crisis hotline that they can call. They can also file a grievance to feel like if they want to keep it anonymous, or someone that they don't want to let staff know about filing a use of force complaint.
So
If
now
at
for
any
this section, we're going to talk about the specific numbers. So we're going to talk about the number, the count of youth involved, as well as counting the use of force incidents. So something I have to preface with is that whenever you hear us talking about distinct youth, unduplicated youth, and unique youth, it is merely a phrase that helps the audience understand that we're talking about individual kids, versus when we are talking about the number of incidents that have occurred, that will not equal the number of youth, because as you've heard from my colleagues, any single incident can and likely will involve more than one youth. And it is also, excuse me, it's also the case that sometimes youth are involved in more than one. So that's all we mean when we say distinct and unduplicated youth. So what you can see from from this slide here is that we had a total of 71 unique youth involved in an incident of use of force. I need to highlight that there were 0 instances of use of excessive force. And now, as you can see, the proportion of these instances, the vast majority, 75%, occurred in our juvenile hall facility, and only 17 youth were involved in a use of force incidents at James Ranch. So when we break it down a little bit to understand, well, who are these youth that are involved? You can see that out of the 71, the majority were male, so well above 80% in both of our institutions. And a total of only 12 girls were involved. And so if we're talking about an average daily population of approximately 83 girls, This breaks down to just around 14%, versus with the males, the percent of males involved in these incidents is a little bit different. Now here we have it broken down by the age at the time of the first incidents of use of force. And so there are also no surprises here, because what we know about how youth develop, how humans develop, that the vast majority, so in the bell curve, right in the middle, 65% are in that age group of 16 and 17. And that is really consistent with all the literature. And when we look at segmenting by race and ethnicity, again, this is consistent with our custody population in our juvenile division. So 76% are Latino, and only 3 individuals. And so even though it's 6%, because the youth in the Black racial category comprise a very small proportion of our overall population, that is how it is the case that only 3 individuals actually comprise 6% of that. So those are the individuals, and now we're going to talk about the actual incidences. So you can see that from January through June, March was the month with the most instances of uses of force. And that also coincided with a population increase in the facility. And so these statistics basically confirm each other, right? As the population in custody goes up, you'll see instances where there's friction or tensions, and so that's totally to be expected. And then you can see that the vast majority involve both physical and mechanical, and then only 14% involved physical restraint only. And I think Ashanti and Dan explained how that is the case. You know, different facilities, so if you need to move a youth away, then you may have to put mechanical restraints on as you're moving them. And at the ranch, there were 16 total incidents over the 6 months. We don't see the same sort of fluctuations the way that it's going to trend, because it's a different setting. It's different environment, so we're not going to see surges in populations at James Ranch the same way that we would see at Juvenile Hall. And QED, we would not expect to see a surge in incidents either. So that's totally consistent. And that concludes our presentation. The QR code that you see up here, we invite and encourage everyone to click on the QR code, because what you'll find there are some pretty detailed dynamic dashboards that display month by month, year-over-year trends in our juvenile population. And thank you very much.
Thank you all so much for the report. I really appreciate staff's responsiveness to requests for more demographic and process information that I think both I and Supervisor Lee have asked for at one time or another. I do have one question regarding the spike, but I'm going to look first to see if we have any members of the public who wish to comment. Then I'll come back to us on the dais.
We have one request to speak on Zoom.
All right. Any other speakers? Holding at one?
Yes.
Okay.
Hang on one. Andrew Bigelow, I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You will have 2 minutes to speak.
Hey, how you doing? This is Andrew Bigelow, organizer with Silicon Valley Debug. Some thoughts based upon the report. We definitely understand that there's a formal process for young people to grieve these incidents or use of force and how it may work on paper. From our experience of working with families, young people are feeling discouraged from the process of trying to grieve things like use of force incidents and other incidents as well. And young people are also feeling unclear about it and what they're able to do or if it's even worth it to grieve these incidents. I would say from our experience, young people do not feel they will be believed when an incident happens. Saying that there was, what I saw in the report is that there was zero use of excessive force. I feel like my understanding is that if they're not sent to the hospital or if it passed a medical exam that's considered not excessive, I would challenge that to say that I'm sure if you ask some of the parents of some of these 16-year-olds, when hands do get put on them by counselors, that they would probably consider it excessive. Especially some of the stories that we've heard, we feel like it would fall into that category. And from our experience too, parents and families find out about these incidents through the young people. I've not come across a situation where a parent found out about a use of force through juvenile probation. A couple other things too. I'll be curious as to like how many sheriff investigation reports have been called from the outside. I'm not sure if that was stated already. The only one that I can think of was when the one counselor was fired.
That was our final speaker.
Thank you very much. Thank you to our speaker. I heard that you were still talking. If you'd like to submit all of your comments in writing, we'd be happy to take a look at the full statement. But let me pick up on a piece of that. Are there clear criteria for a medical determination of excessive force?
Can you repeat that question?
Are there clear criteria for a medical determination of excessive force?
So I can't speak on behalf of custody health because they do their own independent observation and or reports. But what I can say is that every single incident of use of force is referred to medical and they are observed.
Right. So the same question. Is there anyone, probation chief? Yes, Greta.
One, let me make sure Nick has an opportunity to weigh in. I think probably the best way to answer your question is medical information is relevant to a determination of excessive force. Often if there's when appropriate officials are investigating whether something has constituted excessive force, they will look at medical information, which is why all instances of excessive force are the subject of a medical evaluation. But it's not that any specific medical criteria is definitive. It's part of the information that would go into a determination of excessive force.
Chief?
No, thank you. I was just going to repeat and echo what was said. That's a medical determination, not our staff, and so I think that that's probably better answered by the medical team. I do know that, and everyone should know that if a youth does complain to the medical staff when they see them and say that there was excessive force used, the medical staff doesn't have to inform us to say, hey, here's what I'm going to do. They just do that. They contact CPS or they contact the sheriffs. It's not dependent on anything from probation. That they're a separate entity who makes that call. So it's confidential until we find out.
So if their reported findings is 0 instances of excessive force, does that mean that they made no reports to CPS or the sheriff or other required authorities? Or does it mean that they may have made those reports but are still not directly finding use of excessive force?
Correct. I mean,
Which? A or
they
B?
contact CPS, and CPS and the sheriffs, they do their investigations, and then the sheriff can probably explain that better than I can.
And
then
that
they make a determination on whether there was excessive force to their understanding used, and whether a CPS report is then filed and then found sustained.
Yeah, I would like to get more information, and perhaps it does need to come from custody health, I realize that there are many factors that are looked at, but since we do have medical evaluations and they specifically found 0 incidents, I want to know just what they, the medical, I don't want to call them medical examiners, the custody health folks, what would they need to see to make a determination of excessive force? What criteria are they looking at? There must be some objectivity here. So I know that custody health reports to the Health and Hospital Committee, but I would like to request through the Chief Operating Officer that we get a report from custody health that outlines what factors they specifically evaluate to make a determination of excessive force.
I'm happy to provide that report, and I think they can also kind of share a little bit of contextual information on what's the same and what's different when they're conducting a medical evaluation following, for example, an altercation between 2 youth as opposed to where excessive force has been alleged.
So excessive force, I assume, would apply only to juvenile custody staff. If we're talking about an altercation between kids, that's not the excessive force I'm asking about.
Correct. I think really what I was trying to suggest is just, I think it would be appropriate, and we can include in the report, just some context on what is the same and what's different when they're conducting an assessment following a potential altercation between staff and a youth, as opposed to just any other medical evaluation they might conduct of a youth who might be injured.
Okay. And it's only the former category that I'm interested in for purposes of this report.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you. The spike in use of force incidents in March is a significant outlier in the number of force incidents. The population was higher that month. Is that the only reason for the spike, such that we should always expect proportionate claims of use of excessive force, or were there other factors happening at that time?
There are many different factors that go into that. So as you see that the numbers do fluctuate, and yes, it is in correlation with the population. However, specifically during March of 2025, we did experience a community event that did have impact within our facility of the youth that were kind of getting word of what was happening in the community, as well as we need to understand that the numbers, so 16 can be multiple youth in one incident. So it can be a group of individuals that fought, which would then make the numbers bigger, but it was only one incident that had occurred. So those are potential factors.
Thank you. As part of the next report, I think that kind of information, even as a footnote to any outlying trends, would be really helpful to understand. Thank you. Thank you again to everyone who presented today. Vice Chair Lee, do you have questions?
Yes, I sure do. Thank you so much for the report. And one minor suggested tweak, I guess, is just my thought, if the chair would agree as well, is on the number of incidents by type of use of force. The scale is very off between James Ranch and the one for juvenile hall, because the number of James Ranch is just so low in comparison. So it makes it look like really big when you have 3. It's like almost all the way to the top. In reality, if you look at, just we're looking at the 2 charts kind of side by side, I would suggest maybe we could scale that down a little bit just to really show that it really isn't that bad, right? I think that would seem to make sense to me. Now, when you see numbers being very low, as being raised by the earlier public speaker, is the concern of people just giving up and not reporting. And I don't know what we could do to find that out with any type of survey or whatnot, that we could evaluate how serious that situation is.
So our research and development team does perform I think it's a biannual survey, so twice a year they survey all the youth in custody. One of the questions on that survey is, in fact, do you feel safe in your environment? So we can report back to the chairs in regards to that response of that survey. In addition, there are many different ways that youth can report, as well as outside entities that are looking in that also provide additional oversight. So if there is a situation where we believe, or where a youth believes, staff believe that someone was treated unfairly, or that an incident occurred that rose to the level of excessive force, it can be delineated in many different ways. So the youth can use a private phone, they can call their attorney, and I think in the past, Mr. Silvers also brought up that attorneys are a very good way for youth to be able to communicate, to voice any concerns, which would then trickle over to the probation department for us to investigate further. So to answer your question specifically, I don't know what other ways we could, and we're always open to suggestions and or comments from anybody that might be able to come up with some additional solutions for us.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned about the attorney. So, being from the public defender side and your team that serve our youth, do you hear or do you see these type of trends and all complaints coming in regarding not bothering to report because of not being listened to about grievances?
I'm not aware of having youth inform us that they are failing to report out of either concern for, first of all, any sort of retaliation, which I think is, a common question in people's minds, nor have I had reports that they are not reporting because they feel that it's not necessarily effective or going to result in change. I'll say that certainly we don't know, in essence, what we don't know. So if the youth aren't saying this to us, I can't say categorically that that is not operating behind the scenes with them. What I can say is that historically we've had, from my perspective and in our conversation and relationship with the youth and community over the years, is that we have a fairly strong relationship with the youth. They have communicated issues and concerns over the years to us, which then we have had a history of taking to probation and having probation, frankly, be responsive. So kind of tangentially, I would say, or in context, I feel like the relationship exists where hopefully we would be getting that information, and we have some of that track record. So it's a little bit of a qualified, I think we're getting the information, but I can't say with absolute certainty.
Okay, thank you. The additional thing I want to double check is on the as I said, I'm always looking at trends and whatnot. So looking at the numbers for January to June 25, as you can see, the number of marches spike up between March through May. And that's specifically really in the juvenile hall. I think the numbers of James Ranch is fairly consistent all in all. Any specific observations of what triggered is it like multiple incidents of multiple individuals coming in suddenly having some large altercation at juvenile hall?
So as we had stated before, that a lot of the events that happen in the community trickle into the facility where youth will hear of incidents that happen, and then they will incite different behaviors that then arise within our facilities. And in March and April, we believe that that was, in fact, why those numbers look differently.
Is it something you can share with us specifically? What's the community event? Holiday or gang-related activity outside that causes this?
It was mostly gang-related.
Okay. And then assuming, looking at the way the trend's coming back down since March, April, May, June, in that sense, do you see that that's now calming down afterwards, after that specific incident?
So a lot of times when we have new admits, it creates a different dynamic within the unit or within the pod. Once the youth are there for a period of time, those tensions tend to either disintegrate or they tend to resolve on their own based on some of the events that you see that are displayed on this chart.
Okay. So then, of course, it's the lesson learned, right? Is there anything we can learn from this past incident, how we could avoid these in the future?
Yes, so we can look into those things. Based on just the community as a whole, the probation department likes to, integrate youth. We don't separate youth by any type of affiliation or gender or race or age. We typically do separate a little bit so that there are younger youth and older youth. But we try to counsel the youth and or do mediations to try and settle any type of internal behaviors that are happening. But we typically tend to stay away from separating folks just based on any type of affiliation or any type of outliers.
Yeah, I guess I've always been very concerned, and not just for probation, but it's a situation where when we house our inmates in the jail setting, where we try to keep the ones in a similar gang together. And when you do that, you basically kind of maintain the structure of the outside gang within our custodial facilities. I mean, I just want to just pause right there of how wrong that is, but given the structure and the spaces we have, that's how we are housing them. I certainly don't want to see that also in the probation side, where the kids are younger, and we do have the space to be able to space it out and put them and separate them out, to really try to break that gang affiliation once they are in our protection. And so that's why I'm bringing that up, because clearly the gang's activities, like you said, from the outside, that's happening now is triggering inside, because they want to continue that fight or whatever the fight is in order to show that they're still loyal to the gang or those outside. That seems to be what I'm observing. Am I reading something wrong here, or that's why I'm asking these questions as to why specifically this incident happened? Is it something triggered because of outside activities, say, hey, fight those guys inside and whatever, or since they've been arrested, since that fight outside, let's continue to fight inside in order to maintain their affiliation within the gangs?
So it's not just gang activity, it also is prior experiences that youth may have engaged in just outside the school environment, family environment, community environment. It could be, a youth that they might have had outside of any type of affiliation. So just working with the youth in general, they are very young, they are very vulnerable, they are very influenced. So to be able to have our staff work with them and do the counseling and have CBOs come in and work with them as well, we try to break down those barriers to have less and less incidents. And as you can see in January and February and May and June, those types of interventions have been working. It's those outliers where we have youth that are coming in from the community that we haven't had an opportunity to work with as intensely, that these situations do occur.
Let's see some of the lights too.
Right, but I wanted to just see if you're finished and make a comment.
Yeah, on this specific issue, on the violence, I'm done with the
Oh,
question.
okay.
But yeah,
No,
but and then I guess there's just one follow-up was regarding the future reports, and see if we could have a more provide statistical breakdown of the different types of the situations of use and force was being used in. That would be helpful. And I think our staff also sent some additional questions regarding to the medical team, and if we can get those responded off agenda, that would be great. Thank you. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. The study that you mentioned, I see your light, alternate defender, I'll be right there. The study that you mentioned that takes place twice a year for youth in custody, I don't recall seeing that. Do those results come to this committee? And if not, I'd like to direct that they do come to this committee twice a year.
I cannot say for, oh, Marielle, thank you.
Hi, Marielle.
Hi, Supervisor Ellenberg, Mariel Caballero, Deputy Director, Probation Administration. Those surveys were developed as part of the county's overall measures of success, and some of them have been printed in the budget book over the years. However, the full survey responses have never been published other than for use internally to address issues with, that the youth bring up. They're also used to inform conversations with the Youth Advisory Council to address issues that they may bring up overall. So we can take a look and see if there's a format in which it would make sense to bring that information back. The questions have changed slightly over time, but they address a variety of issues from food to services to facility. And again, were developed as part of the measures of success budget planning.
Thank you. And I assume it's all de-identified, and that would be really valuable information for us as committee members to understand what you're asking, what the responses are. I am really glad to hear that the Youth Advisory Council is involved, and then further what the process is once you have collated all of the information. How is it used? Are there report backs to the youth? We heard 60% of you say, this is a problem, so we're going to address it this way. What is the feedback that the participants get?
That is a great question. I don't know that operationally. I know that some of the QS units collect the information and then share it with management and supervisors. So maybe Trina Gauthier might have something to add. But we'd be happy to look into that and provide more information at a later date as well.
Thank you. Great. I just imagine that it's more compelling to fill out a survey if you get some feedback on the other end of how your responses are used. So thank you for looking at that.
And if I can just give you one example.
Sure.
So we regularly receive complaints about the food in juvenile hall and the ranch because kids don't like to eat healthy food that is dictated by the federal government as far as nutritional standards in the state. And so we have met with youth through the Youth Advisory Council and also with some of our SYTF youth to plan new menus. And then we've done food testing. So, for example, kids don't like fish sticks, but they don't mind them as fish stick tacos with mango salsa. So things like that have been particularly useful for us to get feedback and then to try some things. We have a really great food services manager who's very creative and collaborative. And so that's just one example of where we took information from the survey and then met with a group of youth and then developed a plan to do some pilot menus.
That's a perfect example. Thank you so much. So my motion is to receive the report, direction to receive today's report, and direction to provide to this committee twice a year some version of the survey and information that you are collecting from the youth. And it's not part of today's report, but I just want to raise the issue, and Yvonne will take it up, Marielle, with you and others offline, which is that our number of girls is increasing again. We were down to 0 girls for some distinct period of time, and it's concerning to see that number increasing. So we will dig in more, perhaps for a future meeting. Thank you for your patience, Alternate Defender Perez McDonald.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we were using the information from the caller constructively. I think that I agree with Damon that generally there is a very great relationship we have right now with attorneys, the advocates for the youth, and the management of the probation department, which I think is extremely important and valuable, and I want us to continue preserving. And that does serve as a very important sort of check in our system. And I feel very confident that we have a very healthy system where your department has been very good about receiving our feedback, addressing our concerns. But the caller's questions and concerns shouldn't be ignored, because even if we feel really confident about our processes and our procedures and our intentions, perception by the public and those that advocate for the youth out in the community is even more powerful. So I think to the extent that our families don't feel 100% confident that they are being notified, or that our youth are not 100% confident that their voices are going to be heard because they're not going to be believed, that's really important information that we should use so that we can go back and encourage that nonprofit advocacy group to have a channel of communication through us to give you specific examples of what occurred from my experience managing complaints from community members and parents about representation, for example. I know that there's nuance sometimes, and that the concerns may not be well-founded, but they have an impact in perception. And if we don't influence the community's perception, we don't gain their trust, which is what I think is a very powerful tool. So I just wanted to make sure we identified that.
Thank you. Very well said. Are there any other comments on the dais before we vote? Yes, Chief Burchard.
Yeah, no, just real quick to kind of tie this up. Then one of the things that's important for us is to continue to explore, to your point, of the different avenues and ways that a youth can lodge any complaint, whether it's food, whether it's excessive force or anything. So for us to continue to explore those opportunities of whether it's through the medical clinic, through their attorneys, through their parents, through advocacy groups, we welcome that. I know that we recently met with a family who had some questions, and our staff met with them to answer those questions individually. So we also offer that as well. We're transparent as we can be, we feel. Our website, and you can find all the information, and we're trying to be as transparent as we possibly can, but we're not perfect. There's always room for improvement, so if there's any ideas and suggestions, please feel free to bring them to us, and we'll certainly look at those.
Thank you, Chief. Certainly none of us is perfect, but your office, through a number of chiefs, has had a really strong commitment to continued improvement and iteration, and I think a lot of the work is absolutely exemplary. I want to make sure that my motion also included the comments I made to Greta about getting some information back on how custody health makes determinations of excessive force, just because I said that earlier.
Yes.
Is that a good second for all?
Correct, yes.
Okay, we had no speakers on this item. Let's vote, please.
Vice Chairperson Lee?
Aye.
And Chairperson Ellenberg?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion
Thank
carries.
you. Thank you, everyone up here, for participating, and thank you all from probation for presenting. Item 5 is to receive a report from the Office of the County Executive relating to state legislation and proposed 2026 ledge policies in the Public Safety and Justice chapter. Welcome, IGR folks.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Deputy County Executive David Campos, and I will turn it to our staff from the Office of Intergovernmental Relations and also County Council to introduce themselves.
Good morning, Mary Hannah Weir, Lead Deputy County Counsel.
Good morning, Monica Tong, Intergovernmental Relations.
Good morning, Elaine Trin, Program Manager at IGR.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Mr. President. We're going to try to keep this brief, but again, thank you for the opportunity. We're here to present on the legislative policies for the County of Santa Clara, specifically focused on public safety and criminal justice issues. And if we can go to the next slide. As you know, we are responsible for overseeing the interests of the county at the legislative level, not only at the state and federal levels. And a lot of that work depends on the legislative policies document that we'll be hearing about. That really is the roadmap that allows us to move forward on any particular issue instead of coming back to the board every time. You know, we have bills introduced, since there are thousands of them. We lay out the positions of the County of Santa Clara through the policies document. I want to begin by thanking all of the departments that have engaged IGR in this process. Many of you are sitting at the dais, so we are grateful for your careful review of this document and for making sure that it is thorough and updated and takes into account the changes that we have seen in the last few months, and we know that at the federal level, a lot has happened in the last 6 months. If we can go to the next. And now I will turn it to Monica Tong, who is going to provide more specifics on the presentation.
Thanks, David. This report includes both a semi-annual report on our legislative work from 2025, as well as the 2026 suggested edits to the policies document. To recap, the legislative platform consists of 4 different parts: the policies document that we've chatted about, bill ideas, priorities, and funding. As seen on the previous slide, the legislative policies document does provide IGR with the authority to engage legislation. In 2025, this year, the session ended on September 13th, and the governor had until Monday to sign bills or veto them. To highlight some of the bills in PSJ this year, as approved by the board, the county sponsored AB 243 by Assemblymember Patrick Aarons, which I'm excited to announce that did get signed over the weekend. So we are thrilled and want to thank the probation department for their close partnership and for their support in the actual bill hearings in Sacramento. So thank you to the department. Other bills include AB 1258 by Assemblymember Clara, SB 59 by Senator Wiener. Sorry.
Can you note, Monica, which have been signed by the governor?
Yes.
As you hit each one, thank you.
AB 1258 was signed by the governor. SB 59 by Senator Wiener was also signed by the governor this week, or actually on Monday. And then SB 258 by Senator Wahab was signed on Friday.
Excellent.
I'll hand it over to Elaine to talk about the platform.
Thanks, Monica. The slide before you is a timeline of our annual process to update the legislative policies document. We are currently seeking board policy committee review of the various chapters and are targeting the November 4th board supervisors meeting for the full legislative platform as well as the entire legislative policies document. As a quick reminder, the legislative policies document is divided into 5 board policy committees, and we allows IGR to communicate our support or opposition on legislation, regulatory actions, or budget policy positions. An overview of the proposed statement edits that is included in your packet is just updates to reflect the changing priorities and changing dynamic of Congress and the state legislature. We add statements when there are new or emerging issues, delete obsolete or resolve statements or consolidate, as well as clarify language. And with that, and as part of your packet, you have the red line version of the edits. And with that, I'll turn it back to David.
And if I can just sort of conclude before I do that, noting the important work that County Council played in this whole process. So thank you to Mary and her legislative team for all the work that went into getting us to this point. But in terms of the legislative policies document, as you know, stepping back, we actually had a study session at the beginning of 2025 on this document. We went through a very extensive review of the document, actually the first time the document as a whole had been reviewed for as long as we know. And so there was a very extensive overview and edit already. But we also wanted to look back at what happened at the federal level in the last few months and ask departments to take another look at the respective sections to see if any of the actions of the federal government changed, our perspective or our view on some of the areas. So that was a lens that was added to this review. And what we're doing now is going through every committee to present the key changes in every subject matter area, and then we will come back to the board in November for a final vote on the entire document. So it is a very extensive process, and again, a lot of eyes from not only County Council, but mostly the department, the experts in these areas, and we are grateful for the role that they have played in making this a priority. The last thing that I would say is that it is possible that as things happen in DC that we may need to make changes that we're not even thinking about, so we're always mindful of that. But with that, we again thank everyone for their involvement, for their engagement, and respectfully ask for your support of this section of the policies document.
Thank you so much to all of you, not just for the report today, but for the really tremendous and impactful work that has been happening since this relatively new iteration of IGR has come together. It is impressive. It is making a difference in Sacramento. I don't know if it's doing anything yet in Washington, D.C., but that certainly is not reflective of your work or efforts. Thank you as well, both for the extensive rewrite at the beginning. It certainly had been a long time, and for providing us with the red line copy just to make it easy to see what the changes are. I'm going to see if we have comments from the public, and then my colleague and I would like to hear from any of you up here on the dais that weighed in on changes or bill recommendations.
There are no requests to speak for item number 5.
All right, do you want to make any initial comments or go to the committee?
No, I mean, I just want to thank staff and the team for the good work this year. Glad to see that the governor is signing some of these very important legislation, but of course, there's still time left for him to pocket veto it by not doing anything, right? 2 weeks, is it? So we'll find out the fate of the rest of them, but I just want to say thanks very much for the great team here and those in Sacramento for your continuing work on this effort. Thank you.
Public Defender Solar.
Thank you. David, I just wanted to acknowledge the work of this team, and the amount of communication and engagement has frankly blown me away. I didn't realize how much work has been invested and is invested in this. They invited time, multiple conversations with me and the Public Defender's Office over the last several months, really entertained some of the suggestions we have. And I'll say it's particularly tricky in the public safety and justice space because we have departments that have some kind of interests that may not be completely aligned because of the type of work we do. But they've been incredibly accommodating. It really has impressed me and opened my eyes to the amount of work that they invest in it. So I did want to take a moment to acknowledge them.
Thank you for sharing that. Are there other comments or Judge Emity?
I just want to say that I very much appreciate having met with the IGR team and that the court is committed to access to justice. There are some issues that are so essential to that. Verbatim recording, verbatim records, language access, and effective communication services. We very much appreciate the support of the county on any issues that may come up around that. It is really one of the biggest challenges for the court these days, is really just making sure that everybody who participates in court, litigants and attorneys, et cetera, really have the opportunity to understand what happened in court. And those are really important issues for us, and we appreciate very much working together on those issues.
Thank you so much. I know that the courts or the judges have also their own state advocacy group. Do we coordinate well with you when there are shared issues, or are we working more parallel?
I do. There is a very active judicial council group that is involved. There's also a statewide judges group that's involved. But I will say very much we are able to coordinate on a lot of these issues. I probably know we meet regularly with Greta and Casey, and we talk about various issues that are pending. So I think we do have good integration on the issues when things come up.
Great. Thank you. That's good to hear. Chief?
Yeah, just real quick, appreciate the work that we did this past year with IGR, Assemblymember Arenas, to help and pass that legislation for education, higher education for our youth in custody. It was an interesting process, seeing how the sausage is made, making changes, going up to the state level and having conversations, and really just being able, with the help of the IGR, to have a conversation with those who can make those changes, understand the importance of it, and so just kind of really a county team effort. You get to see that at work, so it was really, really positive to see. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, I just want to follow up on that issue as well. Thank you for raising that issue from Assemblymember Ahrens. Regarding a lot of times we have many state laws created to protect the privacy of the child or the individuals affected. In this case, and then I think in many other cases as well, where we're dealing with behavioral health issues or unhoused issues, a lot of times these laws actually hurts individuals, because in order for those providers and so people are trying to help them are actually barred from getting information. I just want to share with you, our staff is trying to help certain unhoused individuals with behavioral health problems. And oftentimes we keep hitting roadblocks. As much as we want the data to help, the information to help them, we were told we couldn't get it because whether CSFC or the other agencies are the only one who can get those data. We have no interest of invading anybody's privacy. Obviously, we're trying to get help, give them help. I'm just saying this is one of those examples that it took that much work to change that one little piece of these overreach on these privacy rules. I just want to mention that, and I think there's certainly other barriers we do need to make in the future that we might have to partner with our assembly members and delegations to help break these barriers to help our community. Thank you.
If I may add, on AB 243, which in many respects was sort of a technical change, it sort of illustrates that even something that is technical at times can be very challenging. And we actually went through different iterations in that bill and conversations with a lot of different players, and not just the legislature, the organizations that are working in this area with the best intentions that sometimes have unintended consequences, but also the governor's office. So it's an example that even something that looks simple on its face can be very challenging in Sacramento.
Yes, thank you, Javier.
So I want to thank the team too, because I was able to share some of the draft language with our community advisory board, and they really wanted to uplift the point number 6 in terms of funding for guaranteed basic income. They were very involved with advocating for the GBI, and then also employment services pathways, and then also want to uplift the point in terms of promoting civic engagement by individuals with criminal histories, such as the right to vote. The Community Advisory Board uses that platform to be engaged in county and local issues. So thank you.
Thank you for sunshining those issues, Javier. I certainly agree and continue to advocate for expanded guaranteed income programs. That is a very strong tool for homelessness prevention, for poverty alleviation. It really addresses a lot of challenges in truly the most, relatively speaking, upstream and least costly way. So thank you for that, and I will certainly be ready to be engaged in any of that work, as well as lots of other work. I'm going to move receipt of the report.
Second.
Vice Chairperson Lee?
Aye.
And Chairperson Ellenberg?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. And thank you very much, IGR team. Item 7 is to receive a report from the Office of Diversion and Reentry Services relating to justice system improvement initiatives and the Adult Reentry Strategic Plan.
Good morning, Keeley, Deputy County Executive. I'll provide a brief overview, and then Javier and Chad are here to answer any questions that the committee might have. We have a sort of a lengthy report, and I'll kind of present it in reverse order. First, towards the end of the report, we've included data on recidivism. These data have been presented to the board through PSJC and through Reentry Network previously. We've also included a report from the Justice Center from the Council on State Governments. This report lays out a framework for sort of better understanding the effectiveness of reentry services by looking at, of course, recidivism, but also other outcome measures. Some of our services, for example, our housing programs, have some very clear outcome metrics, employment programs as well. But we wanted to include this framework today because for the new plans and for the upcoming fiscal year, developing a kind of a good framework, a clear framework for outcome measures that either reduce recidivism or reduce the risk of recidivism will be important given the extreme fiscal challenges that the county has. The outcome framework would be incorporated into a new multi-year alternatives to incarceration and reentry strategic plan. The board is, of course, very familiar with the reentry strategic plan. It's in its 4th iteration. What we're proposing to do moving forward is for the reentry plan to really encompass the goals, the initiative, the programs, the strategies of 4 overlapping initiatives. One is the reentry services plan. Second would be the recommendations from the Alternatives to Incarceration, or ATI work groups. Third would be all of the work that we're doing around improving the effectiveness, the processes, if our treatment courts. Sometimes we refer to all of that work as just the jack list, but it's really about a process and a collaboration. Then, of course, the Cal AIM Justice Involved initiative, which is really about connecting people who are incarcerated to Medi-Cal, or enrolling them in Medi-Cal, providing services, and creating a discharge planning process for everyone, as many people as possible, as early as possible. These 4 initiatives really taken together really have share 2 goals: helping individuals avoid or have reducing prolonged involvement in the justice system, and then helping them with the reentry services that are necessary when they come out. Taken together, they also cover the full range of points at which individuals can engage with the justice system, and creates opportunities for us to provide alternatives, to divert, or to have more meaningful reintegration. The ATI and Reentry Strategic Plan is in development. We've had some engagement with a lot of stakeholders. We would come back to the PSJC in January, and perhaps the board could consider adoption around the spring of 2026. Lastly, although the ATI and Reentry Strategic Plan cover all aspects of the county's efforts to reduce recidivism, it does not cover the county's efforts or all of the initiatives that we have implemented or are implementing to improve justice, fairness, and accountability for individuals and systems locally. Here I'm referring to initiatives such as the jail reforms, jail reforms task force, the bail and release work group, the consent decrees. What we're proposing to do is that, in addition to the reports that the board receives on these discrete initiatives, we would supplement that with an annual report that would cover the full range of justice reform initiatives. This public-facing report would help the public, other stakeholders, really understand all of the work that we're doing to improve our system. And with that, I will pause for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Key. We'll look first for members of the public who wish to comment.
There is one request to speak on Zoom.
All right, let's hear that speaker, please.
Okay, parent, you have 2 minutes to speak. I'm unmuting you. Please accept the unmute.
Yes, I think, thank you so much, first of all, for the report. And it is very important for there to be fairness and accountability in our justice system. You know, one thing that I didn't hear about in this report for the initiatives is reducing abuse of the system or reducing fraud. I know, if I could give you an example, using the treatment courts to cover up crimes. In other words, saying a person is crazy because they've said that their children are being molested, that's just a waste of money. I mean, you're making the taxpayer pay for that, and you're doing it in the name of the people, right? In the name of everybody in this room, everybody in the county, everybody in the state. I mean, it's wrong. And then we're trying to draft legislation, Measure A, increasing taxes, when you're wasting the money. You're flushing it down the toilet, and then you're saying you don't have enough of it. And this is not just happening in my case. I mean, there's a lot of other people who are saying that there's a lot of fraud in the system. And if we're not going to stand up and say, hey, enough of that, you know, it's just going to continue, and it's going to get worse, because if you're getting escape for doing this kind of behavior, in the future, it only gets worse. So I hope we can change that and include it in our initiatives. Thank you for your time.
That was our final speaker.
Thank you very much. Again, to Key, Chad, Javier, and everyone who worked with you, thank you for the report. I've wanted for some time to see a comprehensive annual report on all major public safety and justice improvement initiatives, really to showcase the breadth of the county's work on criminal justice reform and building safer and more resilient communities, and to make sure that all of our work is consistent with and not competing with each other. I appreciate that the county is taking a more strategic approach to communications and public awareness. I think this is a really necessary shift, especially as we look to better coordinate the many public safety and justice initiatives that we have developed over time. I think all of these efforts, whether launched in response to specific legislation or initiated by former supervisors seeking broader engagement on specific issues, we have seen overlap and silo operation that has not always been productive. I think as we move forward with this unified framework, I will continue to support efforts to streamline and to cross-reference these bodies of work. I do want to make sure, though, that producing jointly an annual PSJ report and combining the ATI recommendations, the reentry strategic plan, the CalAIM Justice Initiative updates, and improving access to services through mental health treatment courts into a single report can't come at the expense of tracking those distinct components of our justice system and improvement efforts. So I'll share an example. The ATI work group recommendations and the reentry strategic plan may intersect in some areas, but they're rooted in really fundamentally different goals, keeping people out of custody in the first place and reintegrating people successfully when they leave custody. These serve, obviously, different segments of the justice-involved population. The initiatives are complementary, certainly in the broader continuum of justice reform, but they're, of course, not interchangeable. So just want to clarify that my expectation is that we continue to monitor and report on each initiative's progress, even if some of the elements are recategorized or consolidated for clarity. If it makes sense to align certain reporting elements, say tracking ATI implementation alongside the reentry strategic plan, I'm comfortable with that, just as long as the integrity and intent of each initiative remains clear. Ultimately, of course, our goal should be to ensure transparency, maintain accountability, and communicate our impact effectively without losing sight of the unique contributions each effort brings to our broader public safety and justice strategy. So I have an additional comment on another topic, but just want to confirm, and I'm looking at really all of you, Greta, Javier, Key, Chad, does that align with what you are thinking in bringing this all together?
I think it does. What I heard today, Supervisor, was just to, one, be very thoughtful and clear about where the recommendation came from, two, the intent and sort of the primary intent of each of those programs and initiatives, even if a program may be utilized by individuals at sort of different points of their sort of justice system journey, but we hear that clearly. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Did you want to add anything, Greta?
I agree with all of Key's comments, and I think and we're happy to make sure that we're tracking things. One piece that I would observe that I think we're trying to fulfill here is really something that you've observed, Supervisor Ellenberg, which is there's often a lack of holistic awareness of all the different fronts on which we're trying to impact an issue, and also that sometimes a single program is really designed to achieve multiple goals stemming from multiple sources of recommendations to the county. So sometimes it's a little bit challenging to actually tie all of those threads together in one coherent approach. And I think that's going to become increasingly difficult, frankly, as we stare down what was the topic of extensive discussion at our last public safety and justice meeting, which is the need to really grapple with our structural deficits, not only in AB 109, but in the general fund, reduce funding for a lot of the behavioral health supports that we've really relied on as diversion resources from the criminal justice system. So we will absolutely do our best to make clear as we move forward how to continue to tie back to some of the major initiatives and endeavors that are the underpinnings of some of the work that we do, while also just feeling like I can't not take a moment to acknowledge that we are going to be, unfortunately, stepping down the level of service we're able to offer in many of these arenas, given just the pretty crushing fiscal realities that we're facing. And so we will see some things that we have underway fall away from a funding perspective.
Unfortunately, I have no doubt of that. And also being clear in the reporting when we are pulling back, when it is specifically a result of an external funding source, whether it's BHSA or AB 109 or federal funds. Let's just be really clear with each other and with the public when we are doing less, that there is a direct line to external factors that are beyond our control. I want to just acknowledge and thank staff again, particularly for including the reference document on reentry success measures, attachment B, and the public defender and I had a quick conversation about that as well. It's really a helpful resource, I think, as we continue refining how we evaluate impact across our justice-related systems. And certainly just in the interest of time now, I want to confirm that outcome measures for AB 109 services and contracts administered through reentry are going to be discussed at the November PSJC meetings. I see Javier nodding, great. So I'll hold my comments and questions until then, when we'll also have the opportunity to engage the former reentry network members in that conversation. But thank you for particularly flagging it for me. And I would motion receipt of the report.
I'll go and second it, and I'm going to make my comments as well. First, I just want to say thank you very much for the report. I like the idea of having the one unified framework, but I do ask that as we write this annual report, we keep the public engaged, of course, by both in content and in style. We've often been told that these reports can be very lengthy and very hard to understand. So I ask that we come up with a way that is easy to follow, and would recommend looking at some other counties and how they present their reports for guidance. Oftentimes we have too much data and numbers, but not real information, if you follow my drift. Also agree that success after incarceration should include housing, employment, health and social integration, and not just the issue of recidivism. I certainly look forward to seeing that finalized plan in the future. Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have public speakers? Did I already ask for that?
Yes, we already took public
Right,
comment.
thank you very much. Are there comments from any of the members on the dais? Seeing no lights, let's vote on this item, please.
Vice Chairperson Lee and Chairperson Ellenberg?
Yes.
Thank you, motion carries.
Thank you. Our last item today is item 8, which is the opportunity for anyone on the dais to share any announcements they would like to make. Kavita?
I have an update from 2 meetings ago from August on the discussion that we had about the Racial Justice Act and the claim to seek reimbursement for unfunded state mandates that we wanted to bring back this month after the Commission on State Mandates took some action on that, which is going to be, spoiler alert, very good news. So just as a reminder, at the August meeting, we had a discussion about the work that our county has been doing alongside other counties to challenge unfunded state mandates, including specifically filing public comments in support of a claim that Los Angeles County filed seeking to have counties reimbursed for the costs of public defenders to comply with the obligation to represent individuals who are alleging bias and discrimination in their underlying cases. And Los Angeles County estimated as part of its claim that its costs were about $650,000 per year. So just a couple of weeks ago, the Commission on State Mandates issued a decision approving Los Angeles County's claim. What that means is not just that county, but that all counties in California have the opportunity to seek reimbursement. They found that the Racial Justice Act imposes a legally enforceable duty on counties to do this work. It's a new program or service, and the costs are mandated by the state. So as far as next steps, the Commission on State Mandates has issued a draft of what they call parameters and guidelines for reimbursement that governs essentially the process for how counties annually tally and submit their costs. They will formally consider and hold a hearing on that decision on December 5th, and then if all goes well, that opportunity will present itself next year.
Great, thank you. Any other, Javier?
Just kindly a reminder, we're hosting our 6th annual Rise Up and Run reentry race at Hellier County Park this coming Saturday. So I know there's a lot of competing events that day, but you can start early and walk, run, and support our clients and former clients, current clients, and our community-based organizations. You could easily find the card. If you just walk out, there's a little booth with information. We got really nice shirts. We're already giving them away for the folks that already registered. So it'll be a great day for all of you guys to support. And all the proceeds from this event is to obtain new clothing and food and hygiene and for our clients that are coming out of jail and prison. And then secondly, we're already coordinating our next Santa Clara County Pop-Up Resource Fair. We won't have the court component, unfortunately, due to just some a lot of our partners are unable to participate. We're just having the resource fair, and the City of San Jose and the San Jose Downtown Association are hosting it. So it will be at the Urban Sanctuary in downtown San Jose on Thursday, November 13th at 10 a.m. It is the same day as our Public Safety and Justice Committee, but that's the only day that they wanted to do it. And if in case it rains, the City of San Jose is reserving the City Hall Rotunda to have that. So we're looking forward to bringing back the resource fair, and we're going to be gearing up for doing one in North County next year. So more information will be given out to our stakeholders, and I'll make sure that the board offices have the flyer for the next pop-up court. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, seeing no other lights, I am going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you all for your participation today, and see you at our next meeting.